we tweet out all throughout the show. We're about to tweet out a link to this book. I think we've done it already. We're going to keep doing it because it comes out today. We're going to give away a copy today as well to the ninth caller, because that's the only line that's open, 866-801-8255. You're going to get a copy of Conversations in Black. It's the new book by the one and only Ed Gordon. He's here. Ed Gordon.
I
Welcome.
love the canned applause. Thank you. I
Yes.
travel with it. Thank you very much.
No, we got it ready for you. Drew McCaskill's here as well. We were talking before you came in about tonight. There's, of course, another debate. I don't give a damn. I can't even tune in. I'm not inspired, but I'm going to vote for whomever they decide to nominate because I know the power of voting, even if I don't like the person that is nominated, because it's important. We also talked about Bernie Sanders. He got, Elizabeth Warren outed him as saying a woman can't win or whatever. And there's the Mueller report that they, kind of said that the Russians backed him over Hillary. People dispute that as well. Your book you have a whole chapter on Obama. A caller called up who was in the Iowa caucus. He and his wife participated and talked about what Obama did to win that. Mm-hmm. I don't think we understand strategy. I don't think the Democrats have one. I don't think they have a message. I don't think that they're really seeing what's here. What are your thoughts, Ed Gordon?
I think that if the Democrats don't get themselves together in the next month or so, it's over. I really do believe that, and I don't say that as a scare tactic. Democrats have always been scattered. They like to call it the big tent, but it's just confusion. And that's,
why is that? Is it because it started as the party of slavery, and then something happened, and then they got confused along the way?
I think it's a misguided notion of. I think it stems from wanting to be the good, bleeding heart liberal, and fair to everybody, and we accept everybody. But in that, you have to play politics as politics is played. And so you're trying to serve two masters, and then confusion comes. And the only time we win is when you have that charismatic character who can rise above all of that. So you think about the Democrats who've won since 1960. All of them have been that person, that man who just walks in the room and people go, wow.
Jimmy Carter, though?
That's a different circumstance.
All right, I was thinking he was super smart, though.
Super smart, but you think about the times and what we were coming out of and the like. But outside of Jimmy Carter, to your point, there was that something that they all had. Even if you didn't like them, people didn't love Obama in the beginning, but there was still something about, the little swagger he had that developed and grew. A lot of people didn't like Clinton in the beginning, but there was still something about Bill Clinton that when he walked in the room, you noticed.
Right.
And so it ain't Bernie.
Yeah.
It ain't Elizabeth Warren.
It ain't Amy Klobuchar.
It's
Bloomberg.
nobody
right.
on that stage.
Right.
And so look at what's happened. Bloomberg says, well, shoot, I can get in late, spend some money, and still win this thing. Duval Patrick, who I would have loved to have seen in 16.
Yeah.
Right? I tried to convince him, not that I had that much sway, but I remember sitting with him at the last Democratic convention and saying to him, dude, what are you doing? We sat together, literally, next one. I think he waited, not waited too long for this time. I think his window would have been better served that even if he didn't make it then, this go-round, you would have known who he is because most people don't know. Most black people have no idea who he is.
I think that's also the fault of the Democratic National Committee or whatever, because they literally ordained Hillary Clinton as the next person up to bat. And they tried to do it in 2008.
In 2008.
And Obama was like, no, I'm not sitting down.
Yeah.
And that was probably
I'm
part
not
of
waiting my turn.
No, I'm not, because they told him to. And he was like, nah, I think I got a chance.
Yeah. So let's be fair about what these committees are and what we grew up with them being. You can argue that, well, we didn't like that backroom dealing, the backroom politics. But once that stopped, their power started to fall apart because, again, back in the day, you wouldn't have been able to be Obama and go, nah, I got this. They would have said, the hell you do.
Sit your ass down.
There's your corner. You can leave.
Right.
But this is who is going to be our nominee. So you can argue, was that the best way of doing it? Probably not. But it certainly gave a sense of a game plan that the back room developed. Part of the issue is Democrats do not have any game plan. We've been telling them forever, it ain't enough to say, well, we got to get Trump out of there. Especially, and nobody likes to hear this if you hate him, and I'm one of those, but especially if the economy is what it is.
Yeah.
Which is good, because I'm invested in stocks, so I know that. 866-801-8255. The great Ed Gordon is here. His book is called Conversations in Black on Power, Politics, and Leadership, and he's talked to everyone from Maxine Waters to Iyanla Vanzant to Charlamagne Tha God. Stacey Abrams is also in, D.L. Hughley, Eric Holder. Who you ask Eric Holder, was life really better for Black people during Obama's presidency?
Yeah, let me just quickly tell what the book's circumstance is. I talked to 40-plus leaders of the Black, I'd hate to say the Black community, because they're leaders in America.
I know, you ain't call me, though.
You know.
All right, don't let me just put that over here. I just had to say it. Go ahead, Ed Gordon.
How you know I didn't call you? Because, you know.
You got my number.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
40 leaders and influencers. And what we did was I wanted to get everybody in the same room, but with this group of people, we couldn't. Would have been impossible. So I said, well, let me be the linchpin to all of this, and I will create a virtual conversation. So the book reads as if we're all in the same room talking.
Wow.
Each chapter is a different subject, and when you read it, it literally reads like a script. So Maxine Waters will say something right behind that, Stacey Abrams, and then on and on and on. And so,
but each chapter you give because you start off and kind of telling us, giving the landscape and where we are right now, and when you started this back in 2006.
Yeah, 2012.
12. I'm sorry.
I wanted to do something. I had started it, got a television project, had to put it down, and back then I start out the book by saying, Trayvon Martin had just been killed. Michael Brown, Sandra Bland were still alive. Bill Cosby was still Bill Cosby. I mean, the wonderful and great, God rest her soul, Maya Angelou was one of the people I talked to initially. I wanted in the book, and so many things have changed in this time. So the book reads as a conversation. It's not academically written. It's not. I wanted it to be like we were. Though. Thank you. Yeah. I wanted it to be like we were sitting around, like we're doing right here, having a real conversation. Because as you know, many of the conversations we really wish we could give the people happen when this microphone is turned off. It's when you first sit down or when you're getting ready to leave, and because people are more candid. And so I got folks, I think, to be candid. I mean, Harry Belafonte says, in no uncertain terms, Barack Obama should have done more than he did for Black people. And I said, should have, and then he spelled out should. Mr. Belafonte don't care no more. He's like, look, here's the deal.
I'm 90. Leave me alone.
Yeah, so here's what the deal is. And so we talk about Black leadership and pull no punches. What was interesting to me was to see when I talked to old school, traditional Black leaders and kind of the new guard, how they viewed the relationship between the two. The older guard thought they had a better relationship than it seems the younger guard thinks they do. It's a work in progress.
Relationship with who?
With the new guard, the new frontier of leaders like Alicia Garza from Black Lives Matter. It's, well, we reached out and we're all talking together. Yeah, but, you still see it when you're younger as it's paternal. It's a paternal relationship. And so.
And you're patting me on my head
exactly,
and not validating.
Exactly. And things are getting better. They're trying and they both concede. But it's interesting to see everybody's dynamics. One of the chapters is called Am I Black Enough For You? Because we're still caught up in who hands out the black card, right? Yeah. Who says that,
What's
that
the
everything
answer
is
to
good?
That? Who gave you a surprising answer?
No one really gave me a surprising answer as much as it is we're still grappling with what Blackness is and who defines it and are we ready to accept it? And, I tell people, listen, I've been light eyes and curly hair my entire life. So when I walk into a room of brothers, I got to prove he ain't soft. Ed is down. He's cool, blah, blah, blah. If a brother's too dark, everybody's like, oh, man, here come trouble. We still live in that existence
I want to
in
pause
2020.
There for a second, because I think authenticity, we got to walk into our full purpose.
Right.
And when you said that, I wonder, because if that's the case, because I was telling, don't mess with Ed Gordon because he'll put hands on you. Don't you ever be mistaken. But would you be that person if you weren't light-skinned?
Maybe not.
With light
I don't
eyes
know.
And curly,
I'm from Detroit,
right,
so
I mean,
maybe just maybe just from that. But I don't know if I got a little bit more of an edge, that if I had a darker skin tone, I wouldn't have to. I've never really had to fully prove myself. I played ball and all of that. So when you get kind of a pass when you do that when you're younger and an athlete and all, but above that, I think we all tend to need to prove our blackness at times, right? And so we shouldn't have to do that, because I said if the color barrier is the first delineation, then if we go with the blacker the berry, the sweeter the bush, then you're telling me that Clarence Thomas is blacker than Louis Farrakhan.
Right.
You want to take that bet?
Or Harry Belafonte, right.
So, no, that can't be it.
Right.
Right?
I had
but I do know this. If Michelle Obama had been light and long,
he wouldn't have won.
Hair, he wouldn't have won. And that family wouldn't be as beloved.
Yeah.
She could have been the exact same person, but looked like Sade. It's not the same.
Or if she looked like Kenya Moore. With that, you understand? Like, there was something about her not being the stereotypically beautiful black woman that gave Barack Obama an extra pass. And I feel like, I just had a conference, Drew and I were talking about it over the weekend, and it was all black people at Hershey. Karen Hunter brought the chocolate to Hershey, and nobody was under any pressure to prove anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we all were in this, and it was for the first time, it was like peace and relax, like you could breathe, because we're always, even at these conferences, we have to, kind of make sure we're dressed properly and make sure we're presenting, and it's exhausting.
The burden of having to be excellent all the time.
Yes.
Or to be a great representation of blackness all the time.
But one of the things that we have to get to, and I keep pushing the idea of new narratives. I think the narratives that we've used as black people have gotten us to this point. But if I look at the last 20, 25 years, we reached a plateau in certain areas, and we've not been able to burst through that, beyond that. And I feel like, well, now we need real leadership, innovative leadership to move us past that. We talk about this very candidly, black leadership and where we sit, I talk all the time about all of these conferences we do, all of these town hall meetings. I don't do them like I used to, because I felt like, why didn't we just tape last year's and play it again? Right? Because we're talking about the exact same thing.
With a lot of the same people on those
panels.
With the
same people. And I'm one of those same. I'm not pointing fingers. I am a part of that, which is part of the impetus of why I wanted to do this. So even though I called it Conversations in Black, the idea is to have the conversation and now get actionable items for us to move on. I hope that it sparks conversation and empowers people to understand that you too have power. We've been looking for, and I mean, this is people in general, not just black folk. We look for a roadmap given to us by someone else. And that's cool. And, King did a wonderful job. Mandela has done a fabulous job, when he was in South Africa and making his move. But the truth of the matter is, we have a chapter called It's the General's War, but the Soldier's Blood. You win on the soldiers, not the general. You can have a great game plan, but if you don't execute, you watch a football game, great game plan. Yeah. Players drop the ball, didn't execute, you lose that football game. And so
Baltimore.
It's them Ravens, right? It's incumbent upon us to believe that we have, no matter who you are, the power and ability to make change, and to make your circumstance better. And so I'm hoping this book will be, look, it ain't gonna be a panacea. We ain't solving all problems. And I didn't make it to be that. I didn't want it to be. I just wanted it to be like, you leave a good conversation at a barbecue and you keep it going when you get home.
And now
you call your friends and say you should. Right. Then that's all. That's all this is.
It's already #1 in new releases on Amazon. It's called Conversations in Black on Power, Politics, and Leadership, the great Ed Gordon. We have the winner. Actually, they've been holding on, won the book. Stacy, of all people. Stacy in Texas, you are a winner.
Thank you.
Stacy.
Yes, Mr. Gordon.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you enjoy the book.
I hope to. I'm sure I will. I used to watch you on TV, and I'm going to share it with my 14-year-old. And I have my 8-year-old son in the car with me right now, and we listen to Karen Hunter every day when I pick him up from school. So
well, he's going to be ready. He's going to be ready.
He's going to be ready.
There you go.
So yes, we will do the read aloud since he's reading, but this will be our read aloud book in the evening. Say hello.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Hey man.
What's your name?
Andrew.
Hey,
Andrew.
Andrew. Look, we
Good
got another
name.
Andrew. Love it. Well, huh?
This has been the second time that I've been on radio.
Oh, Andrew's a veteran.
Yeah,
All
yes, I
right.
see.
All right, Andrew.
He
Thank
has
you
his
very
voice,
much, man.
Yes. Thank you. And Stacy.
Andrew's going to take my job. I got to get him off.
I know. Let's get him off. Stacy, thank you. We got our information and everything. All right. Appreciate you. The power of words.
Yeah.
This is important. We talk often on this show. Who's the leader of white people? And we could say Trump right now. Who's the Asian leader? Who's the Jewish leader? Who's the Italian leader? But when we talk about black leadership, we got names that we can pop out. And I think that's part of the failing of our ability to be able to strategize and build the kinds of community and action plans.
So let me push
need.
back on that a little bit, Karen. I would agree with that wholeheartedly 20 years ago. If I had said to you 20 years ago, name me 10 black leaders, you boom, 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 boom. Today, if I said name 10 and I spot you Sharpton, which some people now say, well, he's in the media. He ain't a leader anymore. No, I'm just saying.
No,
Let's be real about how that's viewed, right? But we struggle sometimes. In the book, Killer Mike talks about, dude, we got a problem because I'm seen as a leader. T.I. is seen as a leader.
Yeah.
He's saying
that's a problem.
He's saying, but look, entertainers were leaders back in the day too,
because
right?
they also were held.
But they were held
grown,
accountable,
mature people.
and they were right. So.
They were also leaders juxtaposed to people who were actually doing the work 24/7. They were leveraging their celebrity and their passion and their dollars to keep movements going.
And that's where I think we've got to look back and have these conversations and be reflective and figure out what worked back then that will still work today, what worked back then and will not work today, and really move to that, because we do have people in positions of power. Listen, God bless her. Cardi B ain't ready to be a politician.
Yeah.
But this is no reflection. No,
but she said she needs to go to school.
Right, but that's
which
my
I
point.
agree with.
But there were people who y'all didn't see Karen, but there are people who like, yeah, let her be. Listen, I'm all for her even being engaged, which is wonderful. But Trump has allowed this too. Look, we got that fool, so maybe I should rethink that. Because if he's in there, she should be in there. But neither one of them.
Neither one of them.
There should be a standard.
That's my point.
Raise my bar.
That's my point.
There was a time.
But I love that. Let me just say this so people won't misunderstand. I love that she has become engaged.
Yes.
I love that.
But even she said, I need to go to school. So there still is a pathway. But I remember when Gwendolyn Brooks and Red Fox and Malcolm X would be sitting together in a restaurant strategizing. The convergence of art and activism always had a space. Today, I feel like the bar is so low for our artists, to your point, that everyone feels like they can get in without putting any skin in the game, without having any sacrifice.
Can I push back on that just a little bit, though?
No.
Because I feel like our older guard is holding the baton so tight.
Well, that's another thing. No, when we talk about Gwendolyn Brooks and Red Fox and
so are we talking about human nature, or are we talking about something that's always the case? Nobody ever wanted to give up the spotlight. At one point, King was the young upstart, and he was like, look, I can't do, that's what you all do, we got to do. And then King became the old dude.
At 30
that Stokely and them at 30 something that they were like, no, dude, that's not the way we gonna do, we got a new way. So that, to me, is human nature. Now, whether we say we need to fight against that.
We need to fight against that, though.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to argue.
We need to fight against that.
But that's
because
not
I feel
new
like,
to this time.
But I feel like that's why there's not a black Congress leader in the 13th in New York. Is because there's not.
Charlie, so here, there's so much there, though, Drew. I mean, you're right. I had this conversation with David Patterson, who said, when he was governor for that half a year.
Yeah.
For that
second, I interviewed him, and he was like, I'm considered new, and I'm in my 50s.
Right.
And because his father and Charlie Rango and Percy Sutton, they would not give up the reins. And one could argue even Jesse and Al. Like, at some point, you have to groom.
One could easily argue that.
Yeah, you have to groom. Like, this is what I'm talking about. There's no succession plan. There's no way.
I don't know that there was ever that, though, Karen. I don't know that we
should be.
I'm not saying. Yeah, well, a lot of things should be, right? So I'm saying let's be real about what has always been. We're not missing that from the past. That was never the case. But I do think we should be smart enough to say, maybe to your point, yeah, we've never done that, but we got to do it, or at least say, I'm 59. How old are you?
42.
So how do you and I, and then a 24-year-old,
yeah. Right, no, I'm
you,
just playing,
yeah.
24.
a woman fresh off of college graduation,
Right.
how do we all work together where
Right.
we respect that your zeal at 20-something and my wisdom at 59 can work together?
Because when I go to Congressional Black Caucus, with the exception of Congresswoman Waters' events, the CBC sometimes looks like a geriatric ward when you walk through that halls. And it's changing a little bit now. I feel like a few people, there's a little bit of youth
But
infusion.
not really.
But it's not.
Really. So here's what I would push back on.
Okay.
So clearly, young people are saying that's not for me. We talk about this in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Alicia Garza talks about it. Tamika Mallory talks about it. So if not for you, if you don't find anything that speaks to you at the NAACP or the National Urban League or NANA, what are you doing?
Right.
Right? So instead of walking around talking about this is a geriatric ward, look at it. Okay, cool. Now what are you doing? Create something for this coming CBC.
I agree. I agree
Right?
with that. Listen, we sit here every day, and when I think about this audience, I want to make it younger. I want to make it more broad. So what do? I look for voices.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me just the other day, how do you program the channel? How do you find your guests? I'm trolling Twitter, and I'm looking for people who have different views and who are going to come in and challenge us.
Here's the problem that I'm seeing, Karen. So I think about somebody who worked for me, who's in this book at BET and has become a rising star in this industry, Tiffany Cross, right?
Yes. Okay.
I never knew. I told Tiffany this. I said, "Girl, I didn't know you was that smart when you was working with me. We'd have had some other stuff for you to do instead of going to get the rundowns and all of that." But here's the reality too that I see. Cable TV for African Americans is pushing out a lot of wisdom to make room for youth, albeit smart youth. But if you look at the other side, they're not shipping David Gergen out to pasture because there's a certain wisdom and understanding that he has that nobody at 22, 32, even 42 could have.
We were just talking about Bernie Sanders. What's his appeal? Young people love Bernie, and he's 70-something years old. So I don't think we program based on age. I'm talking about reach and whose voice.
I'm talking about cable television.
Right. Cable television is dead.
Yeah.
So let's just be, cable news died 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and it hasn't been resurrected because the people who program it are stuck on stupid. 866-801-8255. And you can at me on that. I have receipts. Okay. Let's go to the phones. People want to talk to you, Ed Gordon, and I don't want to be very greedy. Not really. A little bit. All right. Robert in Alabama. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Karen? How you doing, Ed?
Good, man.
Hey, great. Look, I want to hit on a couple of things. First of all, I want to go back to something Karen said earlier about black leadership never really having a succession plan. That's really been a big issue, and that goes back to what one of you said earlier about somebody holding on the baton too tight. Now, let's make that comparison right quick with King, because when King came through, it wasn't necessarily he was an old guy, but at some point, you got to have he wasn't really holding on. You got to attribute him to some type of wisdom, because as you get older, if you're doing it right, you should be able to have a little bit of wisdom to go in and fight a lot of these fights.
He's right, but to your point earlier, Karen, let's be clear. Even though he looked older, King was a baby. King was a baby.
Was it 26?
When he started? Yeah, when he started. And here's the reality: A. Philip Randolph and all the other they didn't say, "Oh, King, come on in." They were like, "Who is this?"
They did not. Yes.
Wilkins and the rest of them, they were like, "No, wait."
But didn't he have Jesse and Young and a bunch of? I mean, King was not without people in his camp that he was grooming. He had, and then on the other side you had, the Black Panther Party.
But let's be clear now about that, Karen. It wasn't really grooming. I mean, the distance in their age wasn't such that he was truly grooming. They were more hanging with kids. There was, a little bit of a distance.
Right. You think they were trying to get the groupies?
You know,
They're trying to
I'm
get
not
the
even gonna get
leftover
into that.
groupies. We're going to have that conversation? Ed Gordon, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right, we're going to move on. Eric
Reverence.
Reverence for the Reverend. Eric in Michigan, welcome. He was getting that punana.
Welcome, man. How you doing, Karen and Drew and Ed Gordon? It's a pleasure. A proud brother turned me on to you 2 years ago. I'm just not getting in to have an opportunity to talk to you. And I got to speak to my homeboy Ed directly.
All right, E, go ahead, baby.
He spoke about one of the things that my frat brother turned me on to you, Karen. He felt that my thought process aligns with yours. And it further aligns with yours about having Ed Gordon on your show to speak about so many things in our community that we do not want to face the fact of truth. The biggest problem with the black electorate, the biggest problem with the black community is truth is something that people are so offended by. In 2016, I predicted number 45 will win. I'm predicting he's going to win again because the problem with the Democratic Party, they don't know how to coalesce behind a candidate. They're too splintered. No matter how you feel about number 45, he has his base. His base going to stick with him no matter what. True. The Democratic Party has too many splinters within this group. They don't speak to black people the way they should because they continually take our vote for granted, and they have a long way to go as it relates to trying to get the White House again. And people get mad when I say this. I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump in no way, shape, fashion, or form. I am just a realist as it relates to paying attention to politics and counting the numbers.
Agreed. I mean, his base is we laughed when he talked about I could shoot somebody in the street and they still vote for me. We thought, he's crazy, but we didn't realize how deep that was. Yeah, that's
he was
real.
saying something.
He was saying something. That's I don't give him any credit for wisdom. He was wise that moment, only that moment.
No, he knows.
It's still wise to know what you know, right?
He's a marketer, so he understands the Teflon. You're in New York. You understand the Teflon Don, the other Teflon Don, and there are people for whom, if you build such a mystique around yourself, which he has
always done.
Yeah,
he's always done.
There's pretty much nothing you can't get away with, including grabbing him by the pussy and all this other stuff. He knew that he could get away with that. It's crazy. People voted for that.
Yeah,
68 million people voted.
A lot of women voted for that.
A lot of white women.
A lot of
53%.
white women. Yes.
A lot of white women.
Yes. White women.
And
some Hispanic women too. Oddly.
And let's be clear.
Yeah.
You get what you deserve in that instance.
Yeah.
But what we cannot do is make the same mistake. I keep telling people, and I told people, I was on Steve Harvey's radio program, giving analysis election day that day, and they said, "You think Hillary's definitely gonna win, don't you think?" I said, "Well,
is that Steve Harvey?"
I said, no, that was
Survey says.
I said, I think she's gonna win, but he can win. And they were like, "Oh, he can't." I go, "No, he can win," because what I didn't feel leading up to, and I didn't feel on election day, that sense of, from the people I talked to, I gotta get up and go vote.
Yep.
Right? And I don't even mean the Obama I gotta get up.
No.
That was a whole different thing.
Right. Yeah. That this man's gonna win, and I have to make sure that he doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah. It was no urgency.
There was none of that.
And it won't be in 2020 either. So my question to you, Ed Gordon, Drew McCaskill, Trump wins in November. What should we do?
So, Stacey Abrams says in the book, if you think this 4 years was bad, if he wins again, she says, buckle up. I say, someone asked me that yesterday, you should just honor your threat. Go back to Africa, go back to where, because you had your chance. If he wins, that's your damn fault. Right? If he wins,
what are you doing, Ed Gordon? What would you do? What will you do?
I'm not.
If he wins in
I don't
November?
know. I don't. I'll be depressed. I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Karen.
Is there a plan? We should be planning, though, right?
But that's my point. Which is why, in part, this book is out. Which is why, in part, wherever I go, even if I'm not speaking politics, I remind people this is 2020.
Yeah.
This is the year. Are you registered? Are you ready? You need to go out, and just keep pushing that message, because people will say, I register, and then they don't go vote.
Yeah.
And then I keep telling black folk, in terms of this new narrative I keep talking about, we have seen for too long Election Day as the last part of your process. Election Day should be the first part of your process. I voted you in. Now,
hold
here's
you
what
accountable.
I need.
Right.
Not just hold you accountable.
Right. But here are the things.
But here's what I
right.
need.
Here are
I can hold you
yeah.
accountable and you don't give me anything. No, I need
Right.
something for that.
Right.
Right.
Right,
Where
right.
else do you go to give something away and you don't get nothing? You don't
anything.
go to the store and you don't get anything.
Right.
You know, when we talk about impeachment, I covered Clinton's impeachment trial. The only people who came on every day to stay in his corner were black elected officials. Because everybody else was scared to be tainted with that brush. And then after he got over it and they saw he was going to keep his presidency, the only thing black people got out of that was a picture of elected black officials in the Rose Garden with him. And that was it.
Welfare reform.
And that was well, we see where that did, huh? Right?
No, I'm saying.
No, I'm saying. I know. So, come on.
That's our fault.
That's our fault.
Okay.
And so if he wins, it'll be our fault. And I keep reminding people, it's not about the 4 years of him again. It's about the lifetime and generational change appointments this fool has already been able to make on the courts.
Yeah. Already, like more. He's already had more judge appointments than Obama
did in his entire
8 years.
Yeah.
We're talking with the New York Times bestseller. Look, I just
you already put it in there?
Why not?
All right,
Conversations in Black with Ed Gordon.
We're up there on Amazon today, so that's the
it's
first
number
step,
one.
right?
Number one on Amazon,
right.
soon to be New York Times bestselling book, Conversations in Black on Power, Politics, and Leadership with Ed Gordon. Let's go to Leonard in Massachusetts. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me on. I was listening in about the getting younger leadership involved, and in particular, I agree with that for non-Congress and non-senators because, like Joe Madison said this morning, you got to have seniority to get things done. And if there's a bunch of youth in the Congressional Black Caucus, we won't have any seniority, and they won't be able to be on any committees. They won't be able to push forward anything because they don't have any seniority. And I was just wondering if you guys agree with that or what you thought about that. I just want to say one more thing. Ed Gordon, we always were proud of you at Cass Tech.
Thank you, Linda. That's the high school I went to in Detroit. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. He's right about seniority and how Congress works, but I think too often we think about either and or. Right. So let's just have both. So you've got a fresh group of Congress people who came in. That doesn't suggest that Maxine Waters now has to leave and go away and sit down. We've got to find a way to find leadership, to your point earlier, Karen, that really is comprehensive leadership, because that's what you did have in the 60s. It didn't just come from politics or the pulpit. It was really leadership in all corners, including educationally, and so that's what we need to do. I think part of the ills that we see are the ills of society in general. So it is the idea of, oh, well, I'm a celebrity now, because we're all in that kind of celebrity bowl, and we work as hard at that as being anything else.
We work harder at that.
Yeah, in a real sense.
I wanted Nancy Pelosi to sit her ass down when all of those, when Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib and all those people got elected, AOC. I didn't think that she would have made a great speaker. But then, the impeachment thing, I thought that she played some things correctly. But then to hand down these articles to the Senate, knowing damn well that there's gonna be a stop sign, do something bold. Like, I'm not giving it to you because I know it's not gonna be a fair trial, so you don't get an opportunity to litigate this. Sorry, we're holding on to it. It's a precedent. But
that's the difference in the world today, right? 20 years ago, I could do that. I could bring it in my office and say, look, you all might be right, but that ain't happening. You can go make the noise if you want to, but this is what it's going to be. Well, today she can do that, and then they start tweeting. Nancy's not listening to us. And now Nancy got all this pushback, and now I got to deal with that as opposed to dealing with this. It's a different world. It's different navigation. And so, as much as I love those ladies, it does go back to how much do you really understand D.C.? And if you want to change, D.C., if you want to change D.C., that's cool too, because D.C. needs some changing.
Hello.
I lived and was on Capitol Hill and all that. I get it. That needs some changing. But is the way you're going about it the best way? And you can falter, right? You can try it this way and falter. But when you start jumping on the bandwagon and backing these people, and we need to follow the squad and the crew and the peoples and how much do we really know about them right now? Right? I mean, how much do we really know about them?
It felt good. Ed Gordon to see.
But you know what happens when stuff feels good sometimes.
What happens, Ed Gordon? Just tell us what
I
happens.
ain't
Let me
say,
lean
but
into
y'all
this.
know,
Let me
y'all
tell
understand
me
what's
something.
happening, baby.
We gotta go to break.
Yeah, we better go to break.
No, I'm gonna take another caller so I can calm myself down. Ed Gordon, you don't do that to me on live radio. Mark in Atlanta, mess. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Karen. How you doing?
Awesome.
Hey, Drew. And,
Hey.
Ed, how y'all doing today?
Good, man.
So, question. You were just talking about voting. You were talking about what's going to be awful if he gets elected again for another 4 years. Would you consider? You know how I'm thinking of. I don't think he's like the face of us or anything like that. But when P Diddy had the whole, Puff, I don't even call him P Diddy. When had the whole vote or die or different slogans. How come no one's doing that now? Like, I think this is way more important than us electing a quote-unquote black president. I thought that was great and important, but I think not electing Trump again is way more important than electing a black president. Do you agree, disagree?
I don't know that it's more. I mean, the election of Barack Obama historically has done a whole lot. You can argue whether they're equal, with Trump's election and what it's wrought. But
we wouldn't have Trump if Obama wasn't elected.
So rather than compare them, let's go to the vote or die and what that stuff will come. And sometimes things are of their time, right? And they worked at that time, and it may or may not work again. I think whether it's name your fate, Michael B. Jordan or whoever's hot right now that we think could to lead a campaign like that, you still need those things. But the reality is it's about the old school politics of, hey, let's fry some fish and tell people we sending the bus. It's a free fish sandwich. All you got to do is come here and vote. That stuff still works. You know when I talked about finding stuff that works?
Popeye's chicken.
Yeah. Lord help. Look, there you go, Karen.
Come on, Popeyes.
If we promise that chicken sandwich, we can get anybody we want in.
Everybody down to the polls.
Right.
Damn it.
But we joke about it now. But the reality is we just need to make sure that we play this game strategically better than we have before.
Yeah, there's just no strategy.
And I would absolutely say to the Democratic Party, whomever you choose and whoever we put in office, you owe us and you owe us big. Do we have to have a person of color in that VP slot? These are decisions that need to be made right now. And they need to be walking in saying, look, you want us on board, you better put Stacey Abrams, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Puffy Comb, whoever you want.
Anyone but Kanye.
Sean.
Anybody but Kanye.
We need that kind of strategy now that I just don't see. Now, maybe it's going on and I don't know. I'm not privy to that. I don't think it is.
I don't think so either. We're going to keep having conversations with you. Ed Gordon,
so.
You always have a seat at our table.
I appreciate it.
Y'all get his book, Conversations in Black on Power, Politics, and Leadership. Let's make it a New York Times bestseller because those things matter.
They do matter.
And we support him unapologetically. Ed Gordon, amazing human being. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.